Alrighty, folks. It is another CAV HQ Live with me
Yes, it is.
and my faithful side companion, James. James, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I am good. I am good. If I look a little robotic tonight, for some reason I did something to a little stiff. You know, look left on. It is better. Better than what it was.
Good. Taking me a minute to get everything set up on my end over here.
Good. All my stuff around. Still had a bunch of junk all over my table here left over from the terrain show left. Episode.
Yeah, I caught the last half or so of that.
Yeah, work continues on the big desert board. Tiger Race says, "Get with the program, James." James is the program. All right. Be glad that there's any organization whatsoever to this show. Totally because of James.
I don't know if I go that far, but I try. You should hear some of the crazy questions I ask before we come online.
James is very in the pipe, 5x5.
Me and the Almirathil are like this. I'm learning everything.
We are.
I'm like an archaeologist.
It's just hard for me
digging up.
because like I said, I'm all Terran and rock right. Oh, wait a minute. I'm at the
Well, I mean, there were so many Almirathil models that have been released lately, and of course, I'm trying to study up and get ready for that first episode, the return episode of the Big Stompy podcast. We're going to talk about Almirathil and a bunch of their units, and so I'm trying to make sure that I'm studying for the test.
And
I'm cramming.
We'll keep making announcements, but that will be next Thursday, the 17th at 8:00 Central Time. First episode, live episode, Stompy Robots.
Big Stompy podcast, but that's okay. All right.
James and Ross, and I think that Todd and I are going to jump in and make crazy comments.
Mayor Dude says there have not been enough Almirathil releases.
Well, there's more coming, so we've got a lot of them ready to go.
Excited. Yep. I just want to correct something I said on Monday. I originally we had planned to try and do the first Big Stompy podcast on Thursday, this Thursday, tomorrow, but there was some miscommunications and we failed by John, which is kind of a big deal, and so we're going to push it off till next weekend. Sorry for those people that I may have misled. You wouldn't be the first ones.
Well, just so that we've got lots of little parts that need to go in. Didn't realize that the parts had to be 24 hours. So, but
no,
and
sorry about that.
That's all right. And not to mention, next Thursday is my birthday, so that works out good. I can be on the show, and everybody can go, "Happy birthday, CAVBoss!"
Happy birthday, CAVBoss!
Let me bask in my glow of be my 30th birthday.
30th. Wow.
Yeah. I want to live the moment.
So if we were to cut you open and count the rings, we'd only find 30. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I 29 probably at this
29?
point. Yeah.
Until next Thursday.
Until next Thursday. Then the 30th will be there.
Turns out, John, I may be a little bit older than you.
See, that's not true because I think, well, no, that's right because your birthday was like the 80th, wasn't it? Like your 80th birthday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember
80th. Yep. That's right. I'm trying to hold on to the 88, then I can be my own anti-tank weapon.
Oh, 30th, 10 times over. Oh, whatever. You're just
you're getting nothing for Christmas.
Jealous of my 30-year-old beautiful, my Goldilocks hair. Voila. All right. So we are going to make tonight kind of an open mic night again. James has some questions. That's nothing new. I don't know if you're talking about my birthday or the open mic night, but we try to have some topics. And if during the week, if people would get on the Facebook page or in Discord and say, hey, you know what I'd really like to hear about on the next CAV HQ Live Shine? And then we can kind of talk about it and have some things ready. So
sweet.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, however you want to look at it, there's just a lot of topics that we've already covered that we've, and I mean, we can go over it ad nauseum, but for new people or whatnot, but I hate to say the same thing over and over every week when everybody's already heard it. So I'm getting nothing for Christmas. You're getting another year on this planet. Be grateful. Bags of mostly water.
Yeah.
So, oh, by the way, just while it was on my mind, the reason the whole obsolete thing was because I am not a Yahoo Prime member.
Oh, is that what
is
it
what
is?
It is. So I only get them once a week.
Oh, you bad person. Yeah, I noticed when I was up there and we were watching YouTube that a commercial came on, and I did a double take and I was like, what is that? And then it literally, I had no idea what was going on. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I subscribe to YouTube Red, so I don't get commercials. And I was like, and then when you said it was only episode 8, I'm like, John, they're all out. I've watched all of them.
Nope. Sorry. I already have 20,000 other subscriptions.
Don't go back into our chat and read the comments I made from last weekend because there's spoilers in there, because I just assumed you had watched them all too.
All right. I'll be good.
I'm sorry. Well, you can spoil it if you like. I said some things that if I'd known you weren't caught up, I wouldn't have said. I'm sorry.
Oh, maybe that's when you were talking and you were going back and forth talking about the way it was going. I was kind of working from, but obviously you were working from 6. So
yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Discovery Plus next month. Yeah, cool.
All right. So everybody can gear up for their questions. Get ready to go. We'll give them a couple more. Everybody's kind of still
wandering in. While we're waiting on that, I haven't had a chance to crack open that Netflix show about the alien biology thing you were telling us about. Did you say you watched some of those already?
I watched the first one. It was not as. It was very much more vanilla than I thought it would.
Oh, really? Not as crunchy as you were hoping for?
Not as crunchy as
I see.
It kind of almost seemed like it was do a show that gives us a reason to make alien creatures.
Okay.
But that's only the first episode, so maybe it's getting us ready for the deep. But they're just talking about what you would on a higher gravity planet, or things you would see, and if you're any kind of sci-fi kind of guy, stuff that you probably are kind of have.
It could be that they have a different target audience than the hardcore.
It could be
sci-fi
not
nerd.
Somebody that is actually having to design planets and
aliens. Yeah.
Darn it! I thought they were going to show me how to do it. Ready to go. All right. Is there a way to get infantry mortars in a squad with transports? Yes.
I would think so. Makes sense.
I think they already do. Don't they automatically get to pick a transport for mortar squads?
I don't know.
Well,
can't say that I've ever built.
It just so happens.
Do you have the force manager there in front of you? Oh, that too. Yeah, so I mean, my first swing at it would be to build a mechanized infantry squad and see. I mean, those are going to come with transports, and if you can put mortars in there, I would think that would solve your problem.
Your mortar squad, that goes under your mechanized infantry, not your rifle, but mortar squads automatically, if you look at the second bullet point there, up to 1 model per infantry model with the task of transport. So they are mortar squads automatically come with transport. If
so when you say
use them.
come with transports, meaning you have the opportunity to buy them.
Yes. Yeah, you
The
can
cost
choose
the
to.
cost of the infantry squad doesn't include a
It does
vehicle.
not. No, that will
Okay.
add to the point. So if you wanted to have a mortar model, then you can also
Mhm.
select a transport model to go along with it, but you would have to pay the point.
I've not dug through all of the infantry options. Is there something in there that's the equivalent of an anti-tank rifle? Not the self-propelled gun things I'm working on Monday, but I mean, sort of a bazooka, effectively.
They have well, yeah, you have the bazookas, which are the Panzerfaust, okay,
Okay.
which are the anti-tank deals like that. But they also can use uh, the powered armor version of their Mac rifles as a as
Hmm.
a as a squad type weapon, and it has the ability to penetrate tank armor. It's real low, but it can.
Yeah.
Follow up: can mortars use gun ports? No.
Yeah. Firing mortars out of a gun port, that sounds like a recipe for
Well,
an internal
I'm
explosion.
sure probably what he's probably thinking in his is that they
Open
do
top.
the M113 as a mortar.
Hmm.
I don't know if they've updated it with any, but for a long time the 13 had an open back that they actually kept a
Hmm.
mortar in so that they can move. The Russians are real big about using those too. The big 120s they'll put in the back of an
Hmm.
open vehicle and like that. That's really not a gun port. That's more of a pit. That's
Hmm.
what it's in there. So um, you, as a home rule,
Hmm.
could could come up with something to take that into account because it is doable. I mean, they can do them. Or it's just something that you keep bugging me for. Somewhere down the road we can put it in as an optional deal or something like that, or something that you can add and actually put stuff in there for it. It's just not in the rules right now, but uh, it is something that could be done if it was a little thought process done to it.
Hmm. So there are those two infantry essays. One of them is called Storm, and I think the other one might be called Airborne or Aerial or something like that. And one of them lets a unit get out of a like an aircraft or something, and not have to spend an action to get out, so they could
That's
deploy
Storm.
and then still have
Yeah, yeah.
Storm.
Storm lets you get out of a vehicle on the ground, whereas
Hmm.
the yeah, APC turn mortar. Storm does that, and then there is airborne power infantry or what jump actually call it from like a plane or something like that.
So hypothetically, you could be in a grav like one of the old Badgers, right?
Uh-huh.
And be transported in it, zip across the field, jump out, move, and still fire, right?
I don't. I think it's just one. I think it. Yeah, I think it's just one action point to jump out. I'd have to go back
And,
and check that.
and I think what Storm does is it makes it not cost you an action to get
That's on
out.
the
Like,
ground. Yeah, right. If you had storm and that, those would work together. But
welcome to the infantry show.
yes, it always be something. All right. So infantry models with the SA Airborne may dismount a transporting aircraft at any point along its declared flight path during the activation of either the infantry or the aircraft model as a free action.
Okay.
So you could actually be in the plane and you
Hmm.
activate your infantry and they can say, we are jumping out. Then you would put them on the ground below and then they have two action.
So in terms of the activation deck, at that point in time, they're activating on the aircraft's card.
No, they will activate on there. That's right. It says either during the activation of either the infantry or the aircraft. They
Okay.
don't activate together.
So let me walk through this and make sure that I can understand it in my head. I've got an aircraft. It's got some infantry on it with this airborne essay. Okay. I flip up a card that makes it my activation. I could activate the infantry, jump out from where the aircraft is currently sitting, and take my infantry actions.
Yes.
Two of them, move and shoot, for instance. Or I could activate the aircraft, have the aircraft move across the field, and then have the infantry get out during the aircraft's activation?
Well,
Question mark?
here's where that kind of I see where you're going with that. If you are a mechanized infantry, okay, so
Okay.
you paid the points and you got the transport and you got the infantry, okay.
Okay.
All of you are on the same activation. Okay.
Gotcha.
If you buy a transport squad and then buy a
Mhm.
different kind of infantry, and they're two separate purchases, they
Right.
each activate on their own card. So
Okay.
when the so that's a matter that might get you. You kind of have to think of that when you're doing that. So um, if the aircraft activate before the infantry do, or vice versa, that may not exactly work into your plan as well as you want.
Right.
And
Okay.
that's intentionally done because you have transports purchased with infantry. These guys train together all the time. They work together. They know each other. Bob, the head infantry guy, talks to the drought master. Everybody knows what's going
Mhm.
on. When you purchase them separately, it's just like you showing up in a field and there's a bunch of helicopters out there and some guys yelling at you to go to that helicopter, go to that helicopter, but you go to that helicopter.
Mhm.
You
Right.
were in the army. You know how that goes.
Yes. I know exactly how that goes. So I'm gonna
that
walk
that
through it
there
again just to
helicopter
make
over there, no, that one.
I wanna make sure I always got on the one with the big red cross on it.
Yes, you
Um,
had something to at least direct you that direction. So
exactly.
yeah,
I was a medic a long time ago. Um, all right, so I'm gonna walk through this.
okay,
I've got an infantry squad that I paid for and a transport squad that I paid for separately.
yes,
So they each have a card in the activation deck,
correct,
correct?
correct.
I've got my infantry in the aircraft at the start of my turn.
Okay.
My card comes up. I choose to activate the aircraft in this case. The aircraft flies, does its thing, stops once it's done with its activations. I am now done. If I want to dismount the infantry, I have to wait for another one of my cards to come up,
Correct,
correct?
correct.
Okay. Vice versa. Back at the beginning, I've got the infantry in the aircraft. It's my turn. Like my card comes up. I could just have the infantry jump out right there, go do their thing, and then my aircraft waits
Until you
for a
get
card to
another
come up,
card.
and it goes right.
Yes.
Okay,
If they were
gotcha.
purchased separately. So, like his question here is mech infantry are a primary squad, aircraft are secondary squads. Would air mech infantry be primary or secondary? They are, if you purchase mechanized infantry and use air transports, they remain a primary squad. Even in the aircraft that are in that are part of that primary squad. If you purchased infantry, it's by itself. So it's still a primary, but then if you purchase a transport squad of aircraft, then that would be a secondary. Does that make sense?
One, yes. One last crazy question.
Okay.
I buy a mechanized infantry squad. I purchase their transports,
Okay.
so it's all one unit.
Okay.
I also buy a transport unit of aircraft. At the start of the game, as long as I let my opponent know, I guess I have to let him know or her know. Can I put the infantry in either one at the start of the game as long as it's clear what I've done?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have to tell my opponent where they are,
Um,
or do I just have to write it down?
I would probably,
And I'm asking obviously from an official perspective.
right.
Clearly, you can say, James, do whatever you want,
Yes. Right.
but I want to know CAVBoss's take. If I'm at a tournament with infantry, which I know is happening in the Bermuda Triangle on Friday the 13th, I
Right.
get that. What's the answer?
I would say for tournament purposes, that would be, it needs to either be told to the opponent or it needs to be written down and shown to a judge, possibly.
I just fold it up and give it to my
Or
opponent, and that
yeah,
way,
or just, hey,
yeah.
this is something. If when it comes up, we'll open it then, and that would work. Just something so
Okay,
that it didn't seem like you wrote it just right quick. And oh, here, by the way, turn 4. So
that's me, Captain
yeah,
Cheater.
so that would be how I would handle it. I mean, it's if
Yeah.
you're trying to do something sneaky that nobody would know,
Mhm.
the whole um, uh, it kind of
The
goes
pea in
back
the
to
shell game. Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, as far as if somebody wants to look at your card, um,
Uh-huh.
that's something that's if they want to look at your card even after you've got
Yeah.
damage or whatever, anybody can look at your
Public
card at
knowledge.
any point because the machinery has the ability to scan everybody, but they
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to scan a transport and know that infantry squad A from company B is in there.
Mm.
So that's how I would approach it. It would be
Tiger Wraith, are you saying that would be weird? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean wired literally? And one of the reasons I'm kind of thinking is, I mean, if I can separate those two, then with one activation, I could have infantry do something on the right hand side of the table. I could send their vehicles somewhere else,
right.
score an objective or something, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and
Welcome to.
you have to be the main things that you have to kind of look at is um, you have to. It would be weird because the mech infantry and their transport have the same act. I don't know why it would be weird.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, there's two versions that we're talking about. There is mechanized infantry that come with their transport. These guys
Hmm.
are part of the same mechanized
Right.
squad. Okay. Then there are infantry that get deployed on a other transport. So if you had infantry from first company being deployed to the transport company from third battalion, okay, then they're two totally separate things so that they deploy on different cards. And that's done intentionally because of the to simulate the confusion, the not working together, not being together all the time. So, and you could actually buy a whole set of transports and a whole bunch of infantry and those infantry in bunkers somewhere and send those transports off to go do whatever you want them to do.
Hmm.
The thing you have to take into account though is you're paying extra points for those. So
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
might end up having 4 or 5 transports that cost you 5 or 600 points, and
Ah,
they're not
just
really
points. Who
great
cares?
attack vehicles. Yeah, I mean they're
Ah.
designed not to be. We intentionally don't make transports, despots with a box on the back of them or something.
We're just at the game to have fun. We don't care about effectivity.
Yeah, whatever.
All right. So
Welcome to
here's
the
I
world
think.
of illusion.
Yeah, seriously. I think this may be Tiger Wraith's point. I'm trying to think
Okay.
of why that would be weird, and I think this might be it.
I
Okay,
would say
so I've
I
got
would
this.
preface that with Tiger Wraith is weird, by the way.
I,
So that could be where it's coming
I'll leave that up to you to make
from.
those
Okay.
kind of comments. I like him. He's a nice guy. So I've got my mechanized infantry squad with its own transport, and I've got my airplanes. I put the infantry in the airplanes. My activation comes up. I send the embedded transports off to do their thing. They finish activating. Now the infantry can't do anything because they have already activated.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So later my airplane flies, but my infantry activated earlier with the vehicles and they're stuck. They can't do anything until the next turn when I get another
Right.
activation. Does that make sense?
It does, and that's the point. That's what I'm trying to go is that's done on purpose. There is a
Yeah.
reason for that. Is like I said to simulate the confusion and not working together. Mech and infantry get one activation card. A mech infantry squad gets one activation card. So if you had 3 mechanized infantry squads, they would each have their own card.
Right.
Now, if you had 3 infantry squads and 1 transport squad, then you would have 4 cards because the transport squad gets its own card and each squad gets its own.
Yep.
All
See, I think we need
infantry
to.
does not move on 1 card. So if you have
Right.
eight infantry squads, unless you wanted to, I mean, if it was something you guys said at the beginning of the game, hey, all my infantry is going to move on one card, that's different. But as far as game mechanic rule wise, if you have 8 mechanized infantry squads with their attached transports, there will be 8 cards in that deck for them. And that's where you have to be, and that kind of rolls over to where you have to be careful with infantry, is because infantry is cheap in the grand scope of things. You could put an infantry squad out there. I think a regular infantry squad's 24 points, 36, and without transports or whatnot. So it's very easy to, I'll put 10 infantry squads out there for 360 points, okay? And if there's a reason for that, or you need to do that, but you need to take that into account, that those squads are going to have cards individually. You're going to have to move each base worth of infantry in each squad. So CAV is not an infantry game, okay? It is a combined arms game, so it's set up for you to have infantry in there when you need it first or whatever. But if you want to play World War I style in the trench, infantry facing off, it goes back to that. You can have the most simplistic, easy rules in the world, but it still there's a set amount of time to move something. Just say, I'm moving this, or roll a dice or do a quick combat. And let's say best case, you do it in 20 seconds. Well, if you've got 10 of them out there, there's at least 2 minutes worth of work, so 200 seconds worth or whatever. So 3.5 minutes, something like that. So anyway, so be careful with that. Don't let infantry squishy you up. So they're fun to have. We're not an infantry game.
So then I mean, the way to really try and abuse that then is you stick 10 cheap infantry squads in your force to get a total of, I don't know, 12 or 13 activation cards in the deck. So you go green, 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 and activate all your CAVs and your tanks with those green cards, resting on the strength of the volume of your infantry.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, it can be done that way if you want to abuse the game like that. But that's, it's not something that we've had to go in and say you can't do this or whatever, because it kind of is a self-defeating purpose. Is, you control the deck, but everybody leaves because I'm sitting here for 45 minutes watching you move. I'm out of here. So
I think you exaggerate that a little bit. A, I'd love to see something like that. I play against that all day long. B, I bet you could move those guys pretty quick if you needed to.
Well, and the good thing about infantry squads is, and again, you've got to be careful how you design your squads, because if you go in there and you take, a five base squad and make base 1 rifle and base 2 Panzerfaust and base 3 anti-aircraft and base 4 that or whatever, where they're all different stuff, you're really messing yourself up. Generally, most infantry should be purchased as a whole. So if you have a rifle squad, you make it all rifle, and then when you move them, they all move together and do their stuff together. So it moves together quicker. It's just how you want to try to play and how far you want to take it. You can really get down into the weeds with infantry quick. Where infantry are really good, though, is the fact that they can be used as a primary squad. So let's say that you're trying to build a certain something or whatever, but you don't want to spend a lot of points on something. You can go in there and buy a cheap infantry rifle squad, which counts as a primary, and then use that to come back and buy a secondary CAV fire support squad or a recon squad, and be able to get out of it for maybe 100 points, and then be able to fill that something so that you can make a certain squad. So that's, infantry is good for that too.
Ilmarin, I'll play if we ever get a chance. I'll take on your air superiority army. Happy to. Sounds like fun.
Well, and you going back to the fun part of it, as long as everybody is adults, consenting adults in the room, and you know what you're
Wait a
yeah,
minute.
and you know what you're getting into.
Where did this go?
I t-
That's a different
It's
conversation,
just,
John.
just adding another level to it. We have there's normal CAV, there's drunk CAV, and then there's that CAV.
Yeah, apparently. Whew.
But as long as everybody knows what you're getting into, obviously time wise, if you're ready to play that one off crazy infantry
Mhm.
aircraft or whatever, and you're ready to sit there for 6 hours and play, or whatever it ends up being, however much you do, then
Bring it.
go for it. I'm not trying to tell you not to do it. I'm just making sure that you know what you're getting into.
I'm ready. Let's do it. I
You
like
know
those kind
how
of crazy games.
hard I've tried to get James to do drunk cav at least 3 times, and we have a hamburger place here in town that
Hmm.
has drive-through
Yes, they do.
margaritas, and we're
Margaritas.
ready to
Yeah.
go. Let's play drunk cav. I was like,
Listen, listen.
we play for 30 minutes, we go do the drive-through. We play 30 minutes, we go do the drive-through. We're
Listen,
still trying to get James on board.
I've been drunk once in my life, once ever. I'm 56 years old. I've only ever been drunk once, and I was barely drunk when I was in Germany back when I was in the army once. So I'm not saying I won't do it, but I'm just not that guy,
I
not
know.
normally.
Now, um, I haven't really made. I kind of talked about this a little bit the other night, and I haven't made it 100% official because I don't have the exact time yet. It is my intention, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, which I believe would make it the 19th. I intend to play some CAV during the day on the feed
Mhm.
on that Saturday. Just
Oh,
some solo, just squad versus squad. So talking, playing. I'll work around Chris's show. Do it a little bit early afternoon, a little bit late afternoon, just kind of hanging out.
hmm,
So
that'd be
yeah,
cool.
I'll put some stuff more up about it, but that'll be on the 19th. Probably get started 11, 12 o'clock. Play a couple hours, let Chris do his thing. Play a couple more.
That'd be cool. I'll tune in.
In the book, there are rules for destroying a building. If an infantry squad is in the building when it is destroyed, it would destroy the squad, right? I believe, unless it's power infantry. Power infantry,
Powered armor.
powered armor, I believe, takes damage, but is not killed automatically. I believe that light and heavy infantry are killed automatically.
I like the sound of that.
I believe so. You might check the errata. I think that there was some clarifications in there. I don't think any rules changed, but I think that explains under the way the buildings are set up. I guess there was a couple of tweaks, but I think the way that they interact with infantry is the same, and there's a couple of FAQs there.
So I have a question about the sculpting, the infantry, the 28 millimeter scale infantry that Chris has been doing.
Yes,
Those are CAV infantry,
they
right?
are.
Are they analogous to light, heavy, or powered
He's doing
armor?
all of them. I don't know which ones he's working on at the.
Okay. I'm still curious to see how big and beefy a really detailed powered armor guy in infantry is. I've read some of those science fiction books, that series that you and I read last
Right.
year or earlier this year, whenever it was. And I'm just excited to see what the big bulky suits look
We're
like.
adjusting a little bit for that, and to go more into the way that they're described in the CAV universe.
Hmm.
Light infantry are basically like the infantry that the United States Army is. They have a helmet. They may have a black vest or armor plate or something on the chest and back. Elbow, knee protectors, boots. There's some padding there and a little bit of armor, but that's about it. Heavy infantry is the next step up. They actually are wearing body armor. Head might be totally enclosed with mask, breather, whatever, armor
Hmm.
on the arms, the legs, down, and everything like that. But it's not powered. Okay, so it's there. It's heavier. Obviously, we're figuring in the future the stuff that they're able to use will be
Yeah.
great to stop stuff and not barely be as heavy as titanium. Okay, so
High
high
tech.
tech stuff. Whereas powered armor is a fully enclosed system. Okay, so it
Hmm.
actually backplate opens up, whatever they get down in that infantry thing, and it all closes up, and it is beefier and better. There's power source. There's everything it's got to have. Um, I don't know that we defined it as well in the book as we needed to. So
Hmm.
we're as we take this next step and actually make all this infantry and stuff like that, we're adjusting and fixing for that.
Would you say, I mean, just in your mind's eye, is the powered armor stuff the size of the obsolete mecha?
No,
To use your least favorite word?
no, not that. I would say I
Not
would
that big.
say that your power armor is probably in the 8 to 9 footish range. I'd say more 8
Okay.
footish.
Right.
More bulky,
Hmm.
more stuff. So
Interesting.
you'll kind of see some changes from the. I think some of the stuff that you see in the rule book right now that are called
Hmm.
power armor is really more of the heavy armor. The power armor a little bigger and a little bulkier. And I think that I was actually looking through that the other night. I think that probably like the rock and the Terran, the armor that you see there is
Hmm.
more power armor, whereas some of the power armor that's mentioned for the Amethyst probably more heavy armor.
Do you anticipate the 28 millimeter figures scaling properly with the big dictator?
Yes,
Question mark. So in other words, I could make a table that had a legitimate dictator cav on the table standing next to an infantryman, and the scale would be
correct.
correct.
If you will actually go,
That's
if you
exciting.
will actually, for those that may or may not know this, there is actually a rock figure in the infantry, or I mean in the Reaper Mini chronoscope line. There's a rock and a Malvern actually.
Hmm.
That's the scale that we're using. It's 28 millimeters.
Okay.
So
Nice.
if you took that rock figure from the chronoscope line, put him next to the, it's the same one. Yeah, it's the same rock. It's the same one. He was originally in metal. They did him in bones. They've done him in bones black. So um, that is actually the scale of that that the dictator was scaled to him. So the new figures will be scaled to that figure. I thought it was a different pose. If only if they snuck another one in there, but I'm relatively sure they didn't. I think it's the same figure.
Cthulhu is asking a question about a movie I've not seen.
Uh, that would be maybe the bare bones of power armor because it was more of that's more of a enhancement suit, exoskeleton. So it would be the bare bones of a power armor suit. If
Hmm.
there's a power source, then it's power armor. If it doesn't need power, then but it's more than a chest piece or a helmet, then it's heavy armor. If it's just a helmet and a chest piece, it's light armor. Basically, the criteria there.
Hmm.
But my hope is right now. Here's what we're doing with those figures. Is it's going to be a CAV line. I mean, we're using CAV as the basis for that, but it's going to be a
Hmm.
standalone figure line. So if you want to
Hmm.
use these figures for this game or that game or whatever, they're available to you. Down the road, maybe we'll do a skirmish game. Maybe we'll do something. I don't know what we'll do with it, but it's. I think that there's a lot of potential there to do stuff just besides the armor. I would like to see some pilots, some
Hmm.
traders, some things like that we kind of can build as our sci-fi line with a CAV orientation to it without being CAV, so that I don't
Yeah.
want somebody to it says it's CAV, so I'm not going to use it for Star Frontiers or I'm going to play Starfinder or something with it, because it says it's CAV. So I don't know exactly how that'll all get phrased and be done down the road. Right now, we're just trying to get the basis in there. But I wanted it to work with some of the stuff that was already out there again from Reaper, because there is the Mount Vernon, there's the Rock, there's also a bunch of human heavy infantry that are in there. I don't they're not the IMF, it's the Nova troopers. Those are all originally back when we were still with at Reaper and everything like that. Those were the figures that were designed for a CAV infantry game. That never went any further. But that's where the Nova Corps comes from. Those are all the original human infantry that was for that. So, by keeping that tied together with that right there gives you a whole nother section of figures to mix and match if you want to bring some stuff over from the Reaper minis, stuff like that.
Yeah, I bought all those guys once I found them. I was like, whoa, I got to have these. Tiger Wraith, I see your comment, infantry versus infantry with CAV supporting. I'm suddenly, now that I realize those things are going to be in scale, I'm excited. I'm off the chart for that sort of thing. Just a diorama or some kind of crazy one-off scenario.
Well, for like the last 2 years, that's been my intention, is to build, for the paint show and stuff like that, is one of those, a CAV, a dictator with that deal, and take some of those rock models and use them and adjust them a little bit here and there, so I get some different posing out of them. So kind of a scene with them around the unit or something.
A diorama, yeah. I have a diorama in mind for if we ever get to do, like a big painting thing for CAV again. I got one in mind.
Hopefully that'll be something that we have for our March show. No, we didn't get it time for it, but every day for the last 2 weeks, I've started off the morning with, okay, I need to sit down and start putting all the stuff together for the CAV virtual show in March, and something else comes up. So hopefully I'll get that banged out here pretty quick, so that we have 3.5 months to get ready.
Yeah, because I need every second of it.
Me too. All right. So what's next?
That was a furious set of questions.
I want to go back to consenting adult CAV.
God, that's just that's like a tagline you should put at the very bottom of your rule book or something.
Now you know why I have to check the little box. This is not intended for adults.
Yeah, seriously. Not sure I'm qualified to be on this show.
Yeah, whatever.
I have no grandchildren. One of us is a grandpa. It ain't me.
Like a Santa Claus.
A little bit.
You can get white here and there.
So what are you wishing for Christmas, CAVBoss?
World peace.
That's fantastic. I tell you what, since you got that covered, I'll go for the cure for cancer.
Okay. I truly, there is nothing that I want materially that I want Christmas. I am ready for this COVID stuff to be.
Me too.
Ready. Whatever we all can do to get over it and get past it and move on. That would be my wish for Christmas. Hopefully that will be wrapped up with a big bow under my Christmas tree. 25th. It
would be nice. Yeah, seriously. Well, we could talk about a little bit about the Almirathol, I guess.
We can. We started off. We can go back to that. We got 16 minutes.
Yeah, we got, sure, no problem. How long does it take to get from Adon to Almirathol?
I don't know that we have ever put a speed in the game. obviously, and this is kind of a hook, and it gets done a lot in um, games and sci-fi books or whatever, is you do not want somebody to be 50 light years away. They just get in their ship, they click a button, instantly next to the next planet 50 light years. Whether that will be how it really works, I don't know, but that's very boring from a story standpoint. So games and books have put different things in there to make that. So we have that to a degree in there. Just between the time it takes for a ship to drop in hyperspace, and we really haven't got that time period. It hasn't been something that we had to sit down and go, okay, how long does it take to go one line? Where we have our speed bump put in there is hyper disparity. Okay, so you when your ship goes into hyperspace, you as a person can only be in space for so long before it starts causing you, because you're out of phase. Okay, you're out of phase with your dimension, and the ability to go into that, especially if you are jumping into you're here and you're trying to get here, but you've never done that before. The longer you can spend on your calculations and how you need to do this and get from point A to point B, the longer that you can stay in hyperspace. So if you make a quick, I've just got to jump and get out of here right quick, even if you're going a short space, that can have some bad effects on certain people. So that's kind of the levels where it's at. So you have 4 levels technically. You have the first level, which is the quick, hey, we need to get over there right quick. It's only 5 light years away. Give me your best guess. All right. Navigator works on the computer or whatever. Here we go, Captain. Push the button, and it takes whatever time it takes. Okay. Then we have the second level. Second level is where you're a merchant ship. Okay. Every month you go from planet A to planet D, and back and forth. Your job is to pick up grain and take to this planet and bring minerals back to the same planet. Okay. So you do it every day, or every however time it takes. You make that jump all the time. You start at the same spot, you show up at the same spot, you come back. So your ability to fine tune that path has exponentially grown. So the more you do it, the shorter you can go, the longer, whatever. Okay. Your third path is the jump points. Okay. So ships are able to physically tear a point in space and enter hyperspace. Okay. And in our game, hyperspace is another dimension that is our dimension reversed, however deal, but it is compressed. Okay. So if our dimension to go from point A to point B is this far, if you were actually traveling, if you stayed in normal space, whereas if you go into hyperspace, point A to point B is here, because hyperspace contracts everything. So by going into hyperspace, you can go from those 2 points quicker because the distance between them is shorter. Okay. So that's something that they have figured out, how to actually tear these spaces, these points in space, enter hyperspace, and open them up and come back out. It's basically how that works. Jump points, though, can naturally occur. There's naturally occurring rips in our time space that where hyperspace and real space, for whatever reason, gravity, it's related to gravity, interact. And those points sometimes are very stable points and may be there for 200 years. They might be there a week. They might be there 200 years. Or they are very not stable, very unstable, and they just there and they're gone. Okay, so they pick them up all the time or whatever. Well, that's where the jump gates work into, is they have found points from one system to another system or whatever. It's a one-way trip, either way. I mean, you can go in either end and come out the other end. but they are natural occurring spots. So they have determined that they are stable enough to put a gate on those jump points and actually open that, allow you to go through there and go on. So at that point, you can be in a ship that doesn't have a hyperdrive, okay? Because you enter and exit out of the gate where all that's connected. So, and those are the most stable and the far you see them. Those are the longest ones in the game because they are fine tuned to the nth degree. So you don't have nearly the hyper disparity problems that you have on something that's quick. So that's the 4 levels of how jumping in space works in my mind. I'm fine tuning that. You know, I mean, I didn't, you know, I mean, you could write an entire book on fictional hyperspace jumping, you know, and as we move along and develop the game and everything like that, we will expand on that and clean that up. So, CAVBoss, how prevalent is nuclear escalation in the universe? If I know anything about humans, as soon as we get anywhere, we draw on the walls, pet the wildlife, and threaten to nuke something. Obviously, nukes have been used. The Rock plasma bombed Terra, which is kind of another version of energy, you know, nuke times 50. Nuclear weapons are used in space. They use them to make used for X-ray weapons and things like that, and actually shoot, you know, the missiles and everything that are there to get near. We, in game terms, we want to stay away from nuclear weapons because it's a lot easier to drop a rock on somebody as it is to get a nuke anymore. Second of all, everybody, there's kind of that mad thing that we use on Earth that yes, we can nuke you, but guess what? They can nuke you back. So that is a line that they try not to get across sometimes. Not that it never would happen, but as a general rule of even the Rock at this point know that they are not, you know, they tried to plasma bomb Earth and get away with it because they didn't think anybody knew about it. You know, it was kind of, we'll get rid of them tomorrow. They're gone. The humans are done. We don't have to worry about it. And nobody will know. All right. Well, it didn't work out that way, so they didn't go back and do it again. Nukes don't leave loot, and there's that as well. So, and not to mention, you know, if you go too far with it, you're making a planet that nobody can live on anymore for 1,000 years. And, you know, I mean, and then you can come up with 1,000 other sci-fi tropes, you know, as to why they don't. But I know that back when we used to play space opera back in the day, the big one they had in there were disruptor fields. I think that you could go in and set up a thing on the planet that created a shield that didn't allow nuclear fusion to happen, something like that. So lots of different things you can come up with. If you need me to make a bigger reason why, that I will. But I think the common sense one that really works out really good is if you nuke me, I'll nuke you, and people don't want to do that. So, but out in space, it's nobody's business. Now, also, you got to remember that explosives in our future universe are much more, you get more bang for your buck. So that's where you get the Moab and the thermite cruise missiles and everything like that, that you get a pretty big bang. It is something that we've had to tone down mechanic wise, so that obviously we don't want to over screw up the balance of the game, but in the reality of our universe, in the fiction side of it, those are pretty big booms. So I don't know if you look in the opening picture in the rule book, if you look off in the distance, I think you see a pretty big cloud going off from a Moab or something like that. So pretty big.
Hello, Hobby.
And that goes into the conversation that we were having earlier, talking about ADON, as far as before we were on the show. You know, the technology level of ADON is night and day compared to the other factions, even over the Amethyl or whatever. The problem that we have in game mechanics wise is we don't want to make a faction that is 10 times more powerful. Could we address that in points? Yes, but that would get pretty boring. You get to play 2 guys and they get to play 10 guys. You know, I don't want to drag anybody else under the bus, but Interspear Clan. So, you know, those games are no fun. Okay, so game mechanic wise, we have to kind of keep everything in the deal. Now, how we offset that, as far as from the game side of it, is with some of the faction doctrines. You see that with, you know, I think the ADONese get an extra 6 inches for their ECM and phase array. And as we come up with other faction doctrines, you will see some of that. You might see, you know, +1s to weapons and stuff like that. So, but that's where that comes from. If you were sitting down here writing a fiction piece about the ADONese and you know, why the other factions are scared of them or whatever, they're on a totally different technology level than everybody else. It's not insurmountable, but it's enough that, you know, they get a lot of bang for their boom. So
John has said in earlier streams that the ADONese could, if they chose to, conquer all the other factions. That's how powerful they are. And the other factions, for the most part, know this. And so they play nice with the ADONese.
Well, they play nice to the degree of, we know how far we can push them, but they are you got to remember that the ADONese is still made up of 11, 12, whatever it is, individual nation states. Okay. They are still their own thing. They have grouped together for defense and everything like that. So that's really, especially the Amethyl and the Ritter really play that card, is they keep them with enough friction between them that they can't get their shit together. Okay. Because that's what it would take for the ADONese to take everybody out. Is all those factions would have to click together, be on track, all on one mind. And that hasn't happened, luckily.
You'd have to, I mean, if somebody did something really dumb that basically galvanized all of the ADONese sub-factions, the galaxy would be in trouble.
Right.
And so I think the smarter races know that. Certainly the Ritterlich, I'm guaranteed the Ritterlich play games with them to make sure that they don't ever ally.
Right.
There's always 11 different votes about everything.
I mean, that's where the Lend-Lease doctrine comes. You know, that's the what did the Ritter get out of that? Is they keep the ADONese on their toes, because the Amethyl takes that and uses that to their benefit to keep driving that wedge in there. Yeah. And that's part of it. And they all know that if they were to do something that would cause the ADONese to all get on target even for 6 months, they do not want to take a chance of getting away from it. But the ADONese are aware of too, and that's, they can't push things as far as they talk a good talk, but not always are not able to walk the walk, because they know that if this particular faction is dealing with the Terrans or whatever, and you know we need the rest of the ADONese to get on page and help out or something like that. Well, B, C, and D might, but F, G, and J, or you know, whatever. Yeah. You can say what you want to do, but when the ADONese have a civil war, the Rock will play. Well, you know, that's a possibility. There is some friction going on out there. Rumors are high.
So the reason I brought up the question about how long it took to get from Almirithil to Adon was to talk about how easy or difficult it is for them to conduct operations against each other. I mean, obviously not open warfare
I,
probably, but
I can't,
like
I'm not going to put a 100% on this, but we're talking weeks. For you to go from the capital
okay,
of Adon to the capital of Amithril,
okay.
I would even go months. I would say
So the
months.
Almirithil agents are embedded in Adon.
Yes.
They don't travel back and forth.
Well, you got to remember that those two uh,
The
the two
houses.
houses that they're from are still there. So there's still
Yeah. Hakir and
right.
Rakau or
So
whatever
there's
they're
still
yeah.
some, you know, there just because Bob didn't get on the ship doesn't mean that Bob is happy with how things
Yeah.
turned out.
Right. Right. I Adenese politics sounds like a very interesting soup.
Mayor dude, I wonder why he's asking me that. Where exactly is the 7th Guards Cav Division? Actually, Mayor dude, by the way, is quickly becoming the sub expert on Amithril. I think I get about 30 to 40 questions a day from him.
Mm-hmm.
The important safety rule: if you ever design a game, don't give people your private messaging. Just kidding, Mayor dude. So anyway, so he's really been kind of fleshing this out, and we've been talking, and he's kind of helped me kind of focus on some things too. The funny thing that we've come, I already knew, but that he's really kind of fleshed out more, is the Adenese and the Amithril by default are a base 12 mathematics, as opposed to our base 10. So not going to get into that whole deal. If you want to get a better explanation of it, go search base 12 mathematics. So, but basically it defaults to the point is their 12 is our 10. Okay. So it makes for a kind of a funny numbering system. But they actually have, the Amithril are broken down into 12 districts with it. So if you look at the Amithril thing, there's 12 districts within that group. A guard division, there's 12 guard divisions in the Amithril. So each guard division is assigned to one of those districts. Their job is to defend it, because they're primarily were formed as being a defensive army, because in the back of their head we're always, are the Adenese going to come and finish us off, or pirates, or whoever, somebody that thinks we're not big enough to take care of ourselves. So they've been very defensive in orientation, and have, as a result, that's the reason they've really focused on mercenaries to do a lot of to help out with defense and things like that. Or if they need to, we've got a pirate problem over here, it's easier, let's go get a mercenary group to go take care of that for us, rather than us take a chance of leaving one of our worlds with not as good a defense. So, but with that being said, they are being a little more conductive in their looking forward to payback and whatnot. Is there a certain place right now where I haven't broken down the districts and whatnot with Amithril yet, but that's how that's how they're focused. So your question set, where are the 7th Guards? They are somewhere in Amithril space. That's as good as I can go. As a whole, at least their command structure.
All right, John. 9:04.
Yes. Well, and also you talking about Adenese peacekeepers. If you go back and you look on the main CAV page and look in the pictures, you'll find a copy. There's actually logos done for each of the houses, for each of the Adenese nation states. As we get more into the Adenese and flesh that out, you will be able to actually play. You can go into another level of Adenese. I'm Adenese, but I'm also Hakir, or or whatever. So
A cow.
yeah, so you'll be able to go that, because that's really well, I try to answer, though. I don't know that you really don't expect an answer. I just try. So I'll make it up as I go. But because that's really, there is no set peacekeeping force. They are individual nation state units that are rotated into, just like we do with NATO. They're still a German unit, they're still a French unit or whatever, but they are designed to interact and fight together. They train together. So they rotate them in and out.
Schmitty's got a question before we sign off.
How disliked are mechs overall?
Not sure I understand that question.
Everybody likes mechs. I hope. I don't know. Maybe from a game universe, does everybody have something against them or whatever? They're not. They're just a tool. There's no.
Yep.
Obviously, just like our pilots have a little bit more, our Air Force pilots and stuff have a little more zip to them, and people, when the newspaper has a chance to walk in and they tell you, okay, we've got a tank commander and a pilot over here, which one do you want to interview? Everybody wants to go talk to the airplane pilot, tank commander, yeah, whatever. So, so you get a little bit of that, and there's obviously some inner rivalries that go between the
mercs.
Deals. But mercs. Okay,
he meant mercs.
Mercs as a whole are not disliked. I mean, it is a group for, again, they set their own purposes. Obviously, from a Templar standpoint, I mean, mercs are great. Terrans use a lot of them, mainly because there's so many more individual, independent worlds that the Terran Federation won't send anybody to. If you're not part of the Federation, then we're not sending a Legion to be there. The Rock have no use whatsoever for mercs. There are no Rock merc units as far as that fight with the Rock. Are there maybe a couple of Rock merc units that fight for other people? That's a possibility. There's Rock, like anything else, there's Rock that don't agree with the way the things are, and they've gone off and done their stuff. There's Rock that's been thrown out of their their groups or whatnot. So, there's things like that. Everybody uses them. I mean, mercs are, it's a lot easier to, that plausible deniability when something needs to be done on the sly. So really where it comes down to is how you conduct yourself as a merc. I mean, if you are basically one step up from a pirate and kill everybody and do everything like that, they don't have no use for you. And when you fight against somebody that's aware of that and you lose, be ready for the consequences.
I mean, at that point, you are a pirate, really.
And as far as Article 40, I don't know, does it make mercs are legal, or does that really more define how they're supposed to be done? I don't know. I have to go back and look. I wrote it, didn't know I remember it. So, okay. So let's finish up tonight. I think we've had a good show. We talked about a lot of things. So let's go down the list. Next Saturday, Chris will be on at 2:00. Hopefully he's going to be working on an update of the Ryoshi. So if you want to check that out, we should have more, but I think that's what he's going to work on. If not, he'll be working on the infantry some more. Monday night at 8:00 is James and the paint show. Tuesday at 8:00 is the terrain show. Wednesday next week is us again. Next Thursday is going to be the Big Stompy Rope podcast, which those are just going to be once a month. So also realize that that's a once a month deal. And then the Saturday after that, the 19th, Chris will have his show again, but I also will be doing some live CAV online. I'll be playing solo or stuff. So anyway, so we're all good. Have a good night, everybody. James, thank you for being here as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Everybody have a good night, and we will talk at you later.